China's regime sent its defense minister to meet Putin, discussing deepening cooperation. Germany to examine all Chinese components in its 5G network. Mass resignations after scandal over Chinese donations to Trudeau Foundation. Jiangsu vice minister under investigation. 17 central management cadres were sacked this year.
Less than a month after meeting with the CCP's General Secretary Xi Jinping, Russian President Vladimir Putin had a meeting with the Chinese Communist regime's defense minister, Li Shangfu, to discuss the strengthened cooperation. According to Al Jazeera, in the opening of the meeting on April 16th, Putin said, "We are working actively through our military departments, regularly exchange useful information, work together in the field of military technical cooperation, and hold joint exercises." Putin and Xi announced earlier this year that their administrations would cooperate with no limits. Immediately after this declaration, Moscow launched a war to invade Ukraine. Li Shangfu's visit to Russia took place over 3 days, from the 16th to the 19th. This is Li's first overseas visit since he was appointed defense minister by the CCP last month. Talking about the relationship between the Russian and Chinese governments, Li said, "We have very strong ties. They surpass the military-political alliances of the Cold War era. They are very stable." He views that Moscow and Beijing ties have already entered a new era. Li added, "This is my first overseas trip since taking over as China's defense minister. I specifically chose Russia for this to emphasize the special nature and strategic importance of our bilateral ties." While the United States and many countries worldwide condemned the Putin government's invasion of Ukraine, China's regime remained silent. The force with absolute power in China even criticized the US and NATO for actions it saw as provoking Russia. The US has accused Beijing of conspiring to export weapons to Russia. The forces ruling China denied this accusation. Germany intends to examine all Chinese components already installed in the country's 5G telecom network, as Berlin reassesses its relationship with its biggest trading partner, China. Minister of Interior Nancy Faeser told the Bild am Sonntag newspaper on April 16th about the decision. "We have to protect our communication networks. This is especially true for our critical infrastructure." Faeser said the examination would focus on 3 priorities: detecting risks, preventing dangers, and avoiding dependencies. Reuters reported last month that Germany considered banning specific components from Chinese firms Huawei and ZTE in the country's telecoms networks due to national security concerns. Many governments, particularly the US, accused Huawei of posing a national security threat. Washington has alleged that Huawei has close links to the Chinese Communist regime. The US accused that the company's components in critical infrastructure and communication networks could be used to spy on US citizens for Chinese espionage purposes. In 2019, Germany refused to ban Huawei and went ahead with the company, despite pressure from the US. Cyber experts said that re-evaluating Chinese components in critical German infrastructure is a good step in the right direction. But it could be too late. Managing editor of Rhodium Group's China practice and expert on Germany-China relations, Noah Barkin, said, "This is a sign that the German government may finally be taking China-related risks to national security seriously." But after years of dithering, the German 5G network is deeply dependent on Chinese suppliers. It will take many years to unwind this, not just in its 5G telecom network. Last week, Germany also reconsidered its decision to allow China's shipping giant, Costco, to take a stake in a container terminal in the critical Hamburg port, which could put the deal at risk.
The Chinese Communist Party's interference in Western governments is being increasingly exposed. Recently, the top leadership of a well-known foundation resigned following a donation scandal involving Chinese millionaires and the current Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. The organization in question is the Pierre Elliott Trudeau Foundation, which reportedly received money from the Chinese billionaire Zhang Bing. According to Breitbart, in February, the Canadian newspaper Globe and Mail revealed that in 2016, Zhang donated $1 million to carry out different political activities in Canada. The local media investigation indicated his purpose was to influence Justin Trudeau politically. In March, the CBC reported that Zhang and Chinese businessman Liu Zhencheng donated $200,000 to the Trudeau Foundation and pledged $800,000 to the University of Montreal. And that is not all. According to reports, Zhang was not acting independently, but as an agent of the Chinese Communist Party. Following these scandalous reports, several Trudeau Foundation officials recently resigned, according to them, because of the politicization of this situation. On April 11th, the institution issued a statement that read, "The circumstances created by the politicization of the foundation have made it impossible to continue with the status quo, and the volunteer board of directors has resigned, as has the president and CEO. 3 directors have agreed to remain on an interim basis so that the foundation can continue to meet its obligations pending board renewal, including towards its scholars, mentors, and fellows." The organization, named after Justin Trudeau's father, focuses on training fellows with key leadership skills and is known to be funded by Canadian taxpayers. That is why it is controversial that it received money from a Chinese billionaire acting on the orders of the communist regime. On April 14th, Radio Free Asia reported that in 2014, the Canadian Security Intelligence Service intercepted a conversation between a Chinese diplomat in Canada and Zhang Bin. The diplomat would have instructed the Chinese millionaire to donate the money to the foundation and that the Beijing government would later reimburse this sum. For this reason, the intelligence forces exposed to the current government their concern about the interference of Chinese communism in the country. According to the Global News, the Trudeau Foundation attempted to return part of the donation received. However, the donor could not be found, as the check was made out to the Chinese corporation Millennium Golden Eagle International. No one could be found to accept payment on behalf of this company. For his part, Trudeau affirmed that he is not linked to the foundation's operations. The recent mass resignation of the directors of this institution is a mystery, and the investigations into the donations orchestrated by the Chinese millionaires are still ongoing. However, this already exposed the extent of the Chinese regime's interference in Western governments.
On April 16th, Liu Handong, a former party group member and deputy director of the Standing Committee of the Jiangsu Provincial People's Congress, was under investigation. According to the Central Commission for Discipline Inspection, Liu Handong was suspected of serious violations of discipline and law. Liu Handong, born in August 1959, is from Shucheng, Anhui. He joined the Communist Party of China in December 1984. In 2012, Liu Handong was transferred to the director of the Jiangsu Provincial Department of Finance. In 2018, he became the deputy director of the Standing Committee of the Jiangsu Provincial People's Congress. When Liu Handong was a member of the Standing Committee of the Nanjing Municipal Committee, he was investigated by Investigation International because he participated in the persecution of local Falun Gong practitioners. In the first 4 months of this year, 16 central management ministries have been investigated. Liu Handong became the 17th central management cadre to be notified and punished this year.